We are thrilled to have Debbie Jones. Debbie Jones owns the French Laundry Home. Now, that kind of scared me when I first heard that. I thought we were going to have to sell detergent or something. She came to Birmingham several months ago, and she is a wonderful friend. To know her is to be her friend instantly. That's the charming personality she has and how much she cares about people. She started her career when she purchased a Victorian home and had an award-winning tea room and catering business for 16 years. Her love has been textiles, and you can see here the French grain sacks that are so popular right now. She has taken that wonderful fabric and has reproduced it into a top design house. She's featured in Horchow catalog. She does their beddings, and many of you have seen her work. And now you're going to get to see the extraordinary woman behind this business. The thing that I love about her the most, she has put a mill back to work in America. And they mill her fabrics for the French Laundry Home. She has also put a staff of seamstresses that had no place to work, that had long careers in manufacturing. She has put them to work. And so I want you to meet one of my favorite American heroes, heroers, heroesses, whatever the word is, Debbie Jones. I don't like the word heroine.
Thank you to Phyllis so much, and all the folks at Southern Lady for having me. Lynn and Andy and everybody has been great, so I'm really excited to be able to take a few minutes and kind of share more about me and tell you guys about my company. I always find it very interesting to talk to people who own their own businesses. I have been self-employed most of my adult life. I've owned my own companies. And I always think it's neat to find out how people get to where they are, what made them go into the line of business that they selected. So I want to take a few minutes to tell you about that. Definitely talk more about French Laundry, the fabric, because it's an interesting story. And also share a little bit about what our company does and some of the new directions that we're going. As a child, which we'll get some pictures up on the screen, as a child, I wasn't playing with dolls. I was always building things. I built houses out of Legos. I built houses out of Tinker Toys and Lincoln Logs. I had a doll house that I was always in the process of decorating, redecorating, decorating again. So I came home one day in the 6th grade and I told my folks, I am going to go to Georgia Tech and I'm going to be an architect. And I never wavered from that, graduated from high school, and quickly started down at Tech, and I was, let this, some more pictures of my dollhouse pop up. Braces with her dollhouse. So I started down at Georgia Tech, and I realized pretty quickly the labs for freshman architects in downtown Atlanta in 1977 started at 11 o'clock at night. And I don't know how many of y'all are from Atlanta, but that was not the best place for a young girl to be. So I quickly changed gears and decided I would study industrial engineering, which I did, and enjoyed that. I was on a job interview right before graduation, a couple months beforehand. I'd been flown up to Boston. I was interviewing with Digital Equipment. I was going to be a computer analyst. I realized day 2 of that interview, I had majored in the wrong thing. I'd spent 4 years. I just knew what I was going to do. So came back home, and I thought, what in the world am I going to do? So I'd worked at Rich's department store. Sure of y'all, if you're from Atlanta, you were familiar with the Rich's family. Had worked there all through college as a salesperson in the kids department. And I talked to the manager of my department. I said, I think I might want to go to work for Rich's. So I interviewed for a job, and I got a job downtown in the buying offices, in the basement, buying budget women's sportswear. Now, there was one thing that I bought for budget women's sportswear, and you'll see the picture. It was polyester pull-on pants. Now, how many of y'all remember those? Okay. Now, there's only so much you can do with a polyester pull-on pant. So I spent 6 months buying different shades of polyester pull-on pants, and I pretty quickly realized that this was probably not going to be my career choice. So again, not one to, not do something I don't enjoy. I had been a whitewater slalom racer all through college. Had won a couple of national titles, and I thought, maybe I'll take a summer and I'll take what I love to do for fun. I'm going to turn that into a job. I'll go be a raft guide. So I called my mom and dad. I said, I've taken a leave of absence. I didn't have the courage to tell them I'd actually resigned. So I've taken a leave of absence from my buying job that they were so proud of, and I'm going to go be a raft guide, and I'm going to think about what I want to do. Well, 4 years later, my dad calls me and he says, it's time for you to do something with your life. I enjoyed my job, again, won some more national titles, had a great time. I was in the best shape of my life ever, but it was time to come back and figure out something to do. And never one to not have an answer. I said, Mom's friend Phyllis, she has a couple of sandwich shops. Office parks were springing up all over Atlanta, and I thought, that'll be perfect, that's what I'm going to do. Now, the funny thing about this is, I didn't know how to cook. I could fix 3 things in the kitchen: sweet tea, homemade chocolate chip cookies, and fudge. That was it. Now, I opened up a little sandwich place, and it was called Deb's Lunch Basket. And I've gone into this now. I can't cook, know nothing about the restaurant business, but this is exactly what I was going to do. But what I did do was surround myself with people who knew how to cook. My mom comes from a wonderful line of cooks. Everybody on her family, we were laughing with Phyllis's parents last night. Everybody in my family, when they talk about recipes, it's till it tastes right, add a pinch of this, a little of that, when it looks right. Well, I couldn't do any of that. But my mom joined me with all the great recipes from all of her aunts and great aunts and grandmothers, and we opened up my first lunch place. Now, it was a busy place, and we were serving 200 to 300 people for lunch, and Lulu can appreciate this, doing it in about an hour and a half to 2 hours. So I figured out pretty quickly I had to have girls that could think on their feet. So what I did hire, I had girlfriends who were emergency room nurses. And if you can handle things in life and death situations, you can remember 3 sandwich orders in your head. So we did that. We had a great time. We would serve people, quickly and got them in and out. Everything was made from scratch, all of our salad dressings, soups, desserts, hot specials, and that was fun. Well, I had an opportunity to sell my place. So I decided that, we'd had this fast-paced lunch place, and it was time for us to settle down. I said, Mom, let's open up a tea room. Now, being from Atlanta, I love to go to Rich's to the tea room. I love to go to the Swan Coach House. And I thought, we'll have a relaxed, easy-paced life now. So there was an old home in the village of Stone Mountain. It was sitting on a couple acres. And I'd watched it from the time I was little, and I thought, this will be the perfect spot. It was sitting on a couple acres up on a hill. Well, I bought the house sight unseen, never even been in it. So my dad went with me to the closing. He had to fly out. And he said, I'm going to send Bubba, his electrician friend, would go with me and look at the house. We unlocked the front door, and Bubba looked at me, and he said, has your dad seen this place? Okay, it was a disaster. Holes in the floor. There was weeds and grass growing up through the floor. The place was absolutely a nightmare. And I said, no, Bubba, he hasn't seen it. So Dad flies back. He goes home and he said, Debbie, it'll be cheaper for us if I bring an architect. We'll let that architect draw the plans. I'll rebuild it for you. It'll look just like this, but it will be a much easier project. I said, no, Dad, I love old places, so let's try to renovate. So about 10 weeks later, we renovated. I'm sure Lulu can appreciate this. We were up and running. So from a house was an absolute disaster, we opened the Magnolia Restaurant Tea Room, which was in the village of Stone Mountain. Now, I had the restaurant. That's a picture of my son. Had the restaurant for 16 years. We did thousands of weddings and rehearsal dinners, bridal luncheons and showers. Some of y'all may have been to events there if you're from the Atlanta area. We won several Best of Atlanta awards from Atlanta Magazine and had a great time doing this. Now, again, I didn't know how to cook, but I surrounded myself with some really talented people. And a lot of our staff that was with us the day I opened were actually with me the day that I closed the restaurant or sold the restaurant. Now, I'm not one, I get bored pretty easy. I'm kind of that type A personality, and I have to have something new, a new project. My mom had a gift store back in the 70s, and I'm from a family that everyone's self-employed. So she had a really neat Hallmark card store. She did wonderful flower arrangements. My dad was building those doll houses that I love so much. And I'd helped her all through, elementary school and all through high school. And when her space came open in the village of Stone Mountain, I thought, this is perfect. I've got the restaurant up and going. I think I'll go ahead and do a gift store. So I opened up Mountain Street Market. in the exact same space, which was so neat that my mom had her store. And we sold a really fun, eclectic collection of textiles. I was going and buying old textiles at Scott Flea Market in Lakewood. Had some really fun, great furniture. When all the first chipped Peely paint furniture was out there, I was buying those pieces. And then I started going down to the mart, to the Merchandise Mart here in Atlanta, and I was buying lots of great gifts to complement all the old things that I was putting in there. Well, once I got down to the mart, I realized how much I enjoyed that fast-paced. I loved everything that was going on down there, and I thought, you know, this is kind of fun. I think we're flip over now. Okay. This is kind of cool. I think I might like to be a manufacturer's rep. I've got the restaurant running good. I've got one of my mom's friends now managing my retail store. I think I want to be a rep. And there was an incredibly talented woman named Margot Tantow. She was out of California, out of Napa, and she had decided to open up a business here in Atlanta as a rep group, and it was called Relish. And she had an amazing ability to find women, predominantly, who had started their own businesses. So there was an amazing woman making chandeliers out of Texas, a girl that did jewelry out of Napa, close to her home, and it was a great collection of textiles and furniture and gifts. So I repped her line for a couple of years, and again, you know, once I'd kind of got that under my belt, I decided it was time to do something new. And I was coming back home here in Atlanta from Furniture Market, and I decided that no one was doing a bedding company that everything was inspired by men's clothing. So in that 5-hour drive from High Point back here to Atlanta, I created my next company, which was Clover Home.